Hi, my name is Ania Kielar, and I will be giving you a little talk on how to become a peer reviewer with the hope that you will help us at the CAR Journal. I just wanted to let you know that I am the president of the CAR and I'm on the board of the CAR Journal. I currently work as an abdominal radiologist in Toronto, and that is also my disclosure. So the outline of this little webinar is how to become a reviewer, what are some of the steps involved, what can you do, and how can we help you at the CAR Journal. So we all know that everybody's busy, and why would you want to take on yet another responsibility? Well, in medicine, lifelong learning is very important, and whether you're in academics or in community radiology, we all have to participate in lifelong learning. By being a reviewer, you can receive credit on Mainport website at Category 2, and you can review up to 15 credits per year worth of activity in this type of credit. So it's worth having these credits on a yearly basis. In addition, I think it's really important that we all give back to our own community of radiology. This is really important to maintain the value of our specialty and to make sure that it continues to do well in the future. It also gives you the opportunity to learn something new, since you have to read it and criticize it or critique it. If you are doing your own research, it's also a great way to see how other projects have been done. What are some of the things you may want to do in the future? What might you want to avoid in your future study design? And it also gives you an idea of what kind of gaps currently exist in our literature for your own projects. So how do you review a paper? Well, there are actually a number of papers that are available online or in the literature to help you as a guideline, in addition to this webinar. So number one, I would recommend reading this paper from 2016 by Radiology, and they give you an itemized way of reviewing a paper. There are also many guides that are available online, including YouTube, that give you an idea of how to review a paper and also how to dissect some of the statistics. But back to this particular article that was published back in 2016. It's a really good paper because it helps you as the reviewer to break things down into, bite-sized steps. So in my own case, and I guess everybody's different, but I tend to read the manuscript once and just to get an idea of what's going on in the paper so that I have a general idea before I start considering any critiques. When I do read the manuscript the second time around, I have another file open, like an MS Word or some other type of file, where I can take notes as I go along. And I make sure that the conclusion follows the hypothesis. This is an area that often is not the case. People may find that the conclusions are more generalized or larger than what was initially proposed in the manuscript. So it's important that they don't overstate their findings. And I write down my various thoughts as I'm reading the manuscript second time around for any weaknesses as well as any strengths. And I usually write a little summary of what I have learned from this so that I can present that at the beginning of the review. It's worth checking in PubMed or other search engines to see if this type of manuscript has been published for similar topics. And these days, it's important that authors indicate whether they have used a language model for writing the paper for plagiarism issues, and also so that the journal can let everybody know that this has used a large language model for the writing. Some of the things that I find important are, is this manuscript novel? And is the technical quality of how they design their project reasonable and useful and accurate? So these are the types of papers in the type right-hand corner that we're looking for. So in terms of the guts of the paper, is the topic suitable for the particular journal? Is it even about radiology or somewhat related to radiology in the case of the CAR journal? Are there any perceived conflicts of interests? Is there any bias maybe from the outside sources. For example, is there any drug company that's involved that may be biasing this? The grammar is not as important because that can be fixed, but is the writing concise? Often, particularly in the discussion, authors may go on and on about topics that are not necessarily specific to the results that they are presenting. So are they being concise, and is there a way for us as the reviewer to help them become more concise? Are each of the figures and tables necessary? Radiology is a very image-forward specialty, but in some cases we don't need a lot of examples in order to make the point. And so if they're not necessary, perhaps we do not need to include them. Are all abbreviations initially described at the beginning of the manuscript? Was research ethics approval obtained, or in the case of a quality assurance study, did they go through a different mechanism to bypass REB or to get QI REB equivalents? Are the methods and the statistical methods used sound? This is really important because if that is not true, then the question that they're asking cannot be answered. In the discussion, do they explain the results in an organized manner? Do the authors acknowledge their weaknesses of their study? Because we know that every study has some form of weakness. And are the pertinent weaknesses described in that section, which is usually just before the conclusion? Are there references included when there is a statement of fact? And is this supported? As the reviewer, it's worth noting some of these if you are not familiar with the topic very well, just to go into the literature and see if these references make sense. And then, is the conclusion answering the hypothesis? Plagiarism is a growing concern in the medical literature, and there is a way of checking by the administrative staff at the level of the journal for frank plagiarism, but as a reviewer, it's still worth doing a quick search to see what other topics have been written on this particular subject, and if it's the same topic, if it seems like it's the same concept, if it's the same patient population, those are things that you can really pretty quickly surmise if you review the general topic on the literature that's already been published. So I usually have a checklist beside me. We have a form of checklists for the CAR journal, but as I've shown you, there are other checklists that are available depending on the type of study that has been published, and these are freely available on the internet. So for example, studies that are dealing with diagnostic accuracy, you should follow the standards and for reporting of diagnostic accuracy, STARD, checklist, because this is very useful in radiology. But there are other checklists for observational study, randomized control studies, and meta-analyses, which you should follow. And it really helps you as a reviewer to make sure that the authors have followed the main concepts. So this is just an example of the STARD checklist. I'm not going to go through everything, but just to point out that you don't have to reinvent the wheel as the reviewer. Everything is already nicely laid out for you. You just have to review the paper, read it, and see if they follow these main points. These are other statements, for example, for observational studies. This is for randomized control studies, and this is for meta-analyses. So the meta-analyses tend to have the most checklists and points, but these are all, again, easy to follow step by step, and you can use this even if you haven't done a lot of these types of manuscripts yourself. In terms of statistics, not everybody is comfortable with that. If you can, attend a course if you work at an academic center. Usually they have these for free a few times a year. There are some basic textbooks you can read, and of course there are mentors and colleagues you can ask if needed in terms of the statistics. If you have agreed to review something for a particular journal and the statistics are outside your area of expertise, you can contact the journal and ask them what they suggest in terms of how to deal with these particular statistics, and perhaps they can find a second reviewer to help with the statistics. So in terms of writing your review, as I mentioned earlier, you can write a quick summary before delving into the review. So summarize what the paper was about to make sure that the authors understand that you understood what they were writing about. And then you can break down your review into sections, such as the introduction, the methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. And again, talk about the strengths and some of the weakness you may have noted in each section. Be objective and professional with your feedback in a constructive manner. And, because even if the journal doesn't accept this manuscript, the authors really like to read these points that you've made because they can improve their manuscript if they decide to resubmit. So, we want to be constructive in our points because we want to help these individuals who have spent a lot of their own time to create this piece of work. And even if you don't feel that it's sufficient for publication at this time, you can give them some pointers for improvement. And if you do feel that it is, publishable in this particular journal, again, we want to make sure that it's optimized. So a couple final pearls. If you're not comfortable yet with becoming a reviewer for a journal, find a coach. And I'm more than happy to help you if you want to reach out to me. And I know that the journal's editor-in-chief, Dr. Michael Patlis, who is available through the CAR journal email, would also be able to help you to match you up with a mentor or a coach if you want to become a reviewer. We have a program for people who are in residency and early career in order to get involved with the journal. So in terms of if you do a review for a journal, please add it to your CV if you're in academics so that you can use that as something for future promotion. The website or the email, if you want to contact the CAR journal to become a reviewer, is carj@car.ca. So final pearls, life is about experiences. And I very much recommend going outside and having experiences like that. But I think that becoming a reviewer is yet another experience that will widen the breadth of your knowledge. And, you're giving back to our community. So it does help you in the long run to expand your own horizons. And don't be afraid. You may feel that you're a little goldfish in a big, lake, but you can strap on that shark fin and you can do a great job as a reviewer, and I really encourage you to do that. So thanks very much for your time. And again, if you have a question about CAR Journal, the email was in the prior slide. And if you want to get involved at the CAR in general, this is our website and email. So thanks very much for your time, and I hope to see you in person in the future. Thank you.